Ladies and gentlemen, it has been far too long. Um, Paul is not with us today. Paul is on vacation. So we say, you know what? Screw Paul. Shout out, Paul. I love you. I'm just messing with you. But Paul's on vacation. He'll be back, I believe, next week. Barry would
I
know a
think
little
so.
bit more
Yeah.
than me. So today, myself, we got Scott, we got Massimo Barufa with the Bugs Bunny with the Red Sox baseball cap in the background. And then we're joined by a special guest today, Mr. Wavvy. Mr. Wavvy, how are you
What's
today?
up? What's up? Thank you guys for having me. Pleasure to be
Hey,
here.
Thanks for
pleasure to
joining.
have you.
Yeah.
Pleasure to have you. Mr. Wavy covered the Montreal Alliance this past season. Now, regular season wise, Montreal Alliance kind of struggled. They're still a pretty new team, so these things are normal, I would say, when a new team enters the league. Not everyone can be the Las Vegas Golden Knights or the Seattle Kraken, but the bright spot is that the Alliance did get to the semifinals of the CEBL championship weekend. The championship weekend was hosted here in Montreal at the Verdun Auditorium. And when I tell you, listen, I understand that they weren't one of the Premier League teams in the season this year, but when I tell you that semifinal was up for grabs, it was up for grabs, and Vancouver just hit the big shot, the Elam ending to end the game. For those who don't know what the Elam ending is, basically there's no fourth quarter really. Like there is a fourth quarter, but like once you get to a certain and Mr. Wavy can speak to this a little bit more. Once you get to a certain point, it's about target score. So kind of like how the NBA All-Star game was, especially the year Kobe Bryant passed away. And since then, it's been the Elam ending where you have to hit the target score, and it makes it a little bit more competitive. Definitely in the CEBL, but in the All-Star game at the beginning, it made it far more competitive. And they lost by 3. The Montreal Alliance CEBL Championship weekend was hosted in Montreal, and the Montreal Alliance, who struggled throughout the regular season, were in the semifinals of the CEBL Championship weekend. And despite the rough regular season, they had an opportunity to go to the finals, and it was a close-ass game. They lose by 3 due to the Elam ending. Would have been beautiful to see them be in the final at Verdun Auditorium. I believe, if I recall correctly, Cody Fajardo, Montreal Alouettes quarterback, Grey Cup champion, was handing out the trophy to the winners on championship weekend. Mr. Wavy, just talk to us about how your experience was covering the team and being alongside this journey and this process to their semifinal, which they ended up losing, unfortunately.
Bit of a tough season, regular season. The team only won 6 games, but I'll be damned if the same people didn't come out and show up and support every week for this team. It feels like a real family organization from top to bottom, whether that's the fans or, the people in the front office or even the people in the hot dog stands. The last regular season game had people from the crowd going up to the announcers, shaking their hands. I saw this one interaction where someone said, you're just as much of a player on this team as anyone else. And I saw another interaction where someone went up to the president to congratulate her, and she had tears welling in her eyes. And so it really feels like a big community connection, which is beautiful to see. And I think really shows that Montreal has so much potential when it comes to basketball culture. And I think that's a big thing with the CEBL is it's almost like a platform for us to see where basketball could go from here. In terms of the Elam ending, yeah, it makes it super exciting to watch, a basketball league that is not the NBA and gives great incentive for people to watch during the summer. So, for those of you who don't know, let's say the score is like 80 to 82. At 4 minutes left in the fourth period or in the fourth quarter, they'll cut off the time and they'll set a target score. So if I said 80, 82, it's 8 points from whatever the top scorer is. So it'd be first one to 90 wins the game. And it makes for some really exciting basketball. And you could be down disastrously and come back with no problem. Something that shot like a timer might not let you have. It also makes for some really like dramatic plays. There's a lot of players that really want to have like these big, game-winning shots that look like there's something out of a movie, and sometimes they come up too little, too late, and it's like should have hit a two instead of hitting a big three to end the game. And sometimes you're like really putting you're really like threatening that gap you have against the other team.
Yeah, that's true.
But with the Alliance, also I will say two big highlights in Chris Smith, who was the rebound leader of the league in total, and Ahmed Hill on the team. These are the team's two exports from outside of Canada, both with NBA experience. Ahmed played on the Charlotte Hornets in exhibition in the 2019-2020 season. And then Chris was signed to the Detroit Pistons the season after, but he didn't actually play with the team. So two great exports. I think where the team is lacking a bit is with the Canadian talent, and that's something we should definitely improve for next season.
And listen, I do want to get. Unfortunately, we have to talk about losses here to some of our favorite teams. But Khalil Ahmad on Niagara in that semifinal he was on fuego. 31
And look,
points.
if you want to talk about like a Montreal upside to that championship too, you got Nathan Cayo, who is a Montrealer and used to play on the Alliance. And so if there's any like silver Montreal lining in that game, it's that he got some great shots and got a championship at the end of it.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe if I recall correctly, he was on the team. He was with Montreal last season.
Yeah.
What did you find that maybe the Alliance could have done differently in that game? Once again, losing a game by 3 points to one of the best teams in the league is nothing to scoff at, right? The Montreal Alliance could have easily went in there, given how tough the regular season was, and just did absolutely nothing, right? And got walked over, and they did it. They lost by 3 points. And those are the types of games that keep you up at night. And I'm sure some of these guys are frustrated because, you think about that, I just made that one shot, or if this one bounce had gone my way, we're in the final against Vancouver. What did you think some things that they could have done differently in that semifinal against Niagara?
Well, I'll say this, we were doing the post-game press conferences every game and interviewing coach after every game. And, as it got clear that they weren't going to have a winning record for the regular season, Coach Alston's mindset never changed to saying, it never changed to telling his players, oh, don't worry, we're in the playoffs anyways. They really wanted to play every game like it really mattered for the world. I feel like the team has moments where it gets very hot, but then doesn't necessarily make calculated decisions on the court. They'll be doing one thing very well, whether it's blocks or whether it's just like consecutive field goals. But I feel like sometimes like an overall strategy is lacking on how they're going to close the game out.
Yeah, so do you feel like it's has more to do with coaching or like talent compared to the rest of the league?
I think Montreal is at a disadvantage in the following. It's one of the teams that the CEBL is still in ownership of. Montreal is not owned by like an independent person, whereas some other teams are. For example, the most popular example of which is the Scarborough Shooting Stars, who are owned by Ovio Nico, Drake's right-hand man in a lot of senses. So they have really great visibility, and I feel like teams with personal ownership, if you want to call it that, have different opportunities of what they're able to do in terms of everything from roster to like merch for the Shooting Stars. It's great. They have OVO licensed merch. I don't know how many other teams could say that.
Okay.
So I feel like that's part of it. I don't think it's a coaching issue per se. I think Coach Alston is great. He has a very interesting NBA background as a player and a coach, having been part of the Rockets organization as a coach, and then as a player, played on the Hawks with Mutombo, and then played on that Philly team right before they got Allen Iverson. So I don't want to word it like this, but he's technically part of that reason that they got Iverson, for better or for worse.
And what that turned out to be was something special, because Allen Iverson, as all three of us here know, is one of the greatest players of all time. And as Kobe Bryant said, the league is lucky that he's not 6'5", because let me tell you something. It would have been a sight to see. But Mr. Wavy, I want to ask you, where do they go from here? How do you think next season plays out for the Montreal Alliance? Do you finally see them potentially stepping into that next level where they're championship contenders?
The fact that Ahmed Hill and Chris Smith were two of the strong suits on the team, the fact that Chris Smith was the league's rebounding leader, I think if you could get a guy like that back, it's just a matter of complementing him with, a great front court to go alongside him. I think a player they could pair with Chris Smith, who's actually a Montreal native, that would really help, is someone like Jordy Chimanga from the Calgary Surge. He's someone also who has NBA G League experience, having played on Cleveland's G League team and Minnesota's Iowa Wolves G League team. And I think it's like one of those examples where it's a group of guys who are playing in like a post Steph Curry basketball world. And I think so many teams in general, whether it's this league or otherwise, emphasize threes to their detriment. Like, you have some players who are taking big shot threes who could really just be making deep twos or meaningful points in the paint, and it's to their detriment to not be a little more tactical with it.
So basically,
Steph Curry
you're talking
in the
about
Olympic final, which is draining threes from all over the court, right?
We're gonna get to that. We're definitely gonna get to that. But basically, what Mr. Wavy's talking about is the Celtics. That's basically what he's talking about. Because
I'm talking about it a lot. You watch NCAA the past couple of March Madnesses. You see some people taking big threes for no reason, because not everyone's Steph Curry.
And listen, when you watch inside the NBA with Charles and these guys, I know Amazon is taking over the deal, the media rights, so on and so forth. I do hope that they can still find a way to stick together, because they're great to watch. But Charles Barkley always says it. Like, not everyone's Steph Curry. Why are you shooting threes? Karl Anthony Towns, why are you shooting 12 threes? Get in the paint. You're 6'10". Joel Embiid, you're 7 feet tall. Why are you shooting threes? Yeah. This Boston Celtics, when things aren't going well, they keep jacking up threes. Jason Tatum, go into the paint, and it's you're bringing up NCAA, CEBL. It's perpetuated all for basketball, and honestly, it's kind of frustrating, because you just constantly watch guys jack up shots, try to play hero ball, right? And it just doesn't pan out. And to me, it's play to your strength. Why are you trying to be Steph Curry, someone that you're not? Yeah, for sure, you might hit the occasional shot, but what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Also, if you see the team against you taking a lot of threes, you want to match that, and that's not necessarily, like a calculated move. If you have a team that has a strong front court, that's strong in the paint, that's strong in rebounding, then, base your team strategy around those players in particular and those strengths on the team.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Mr. Wavy, I understand all three of us went to Concordia University in journalism. Barry, if you didn't know, now you do know, because I'm about to tell you. He went to school with Alex Shiola, who we went to school with. Okay. Who works at the Hive.
Yeah, Daily Hive now.
And Daily Hive, he's doing his thing.
Shout out Al.
Shout out Al. So we've all been through the CJ building doors. We know what's up. Mr. Wavy, you've been doing this for quite some time, 10 years. What are some, it doesn't have to be sports necessarily, but what are some interesting moments that you've had throughout your journalism experience?
I can give you one that's sports adjacent. This is the hardest I've ever had to work to find a contact for an interview. Now, Mass, I see you got a Bugs Bunny poster in the background. Space Jam is my favorite movie of all time. And so when Space Jam turned 20, I wanted to do some interviews with some of the biggest names who worked on that movie. Very easily got the director, believe it or not. He just found his email on his website and took it from there. But the executive producer of the movie is Ivan Reitman, who's a film legend. Rest in peace. Worked on everything from Ghostbusters to Twins with Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. Plenty more. And so I told myself I have to interview Ivan Reitman. He played such a big part in having this movie be made. And but it's not as easy to find. He's like a pretty high profile person. He's an Oscar nominee. And so I'm thinking, how am I gonna get this guy's contact? And this is I don't know. So I remember that when Seth Rogen and James Franco had that movie, The Interview, North Korea got mad and threatened Sony. They started leaking Sony's emails. And I remembered that there was an email chain that had leaked where Ivan Reitman, this director, is talking about a potential new Ghostbusters project with the Sony executives. So I go on WikiLeaks.com. I get Ivan Reitman's email. I get his assistant's email, and I request the interview. His assistant calls me. He said, "How did you get our number?" I said, I went on IMDb." Took a long pause and said, "All right, well, look, he's free this day, this day, this day." He looks.
I didn't just like, I'm good at my job. Like, I'm good at researching.
I think I use that story during any job interview, even if it's not even journalism related.
That's
and then it was a great interview. It's really interesting because he and the guy who's credited as the director of Ghostbusters or of Space Jam really like butt heads, and to the point that the Space Jam director was telling me, "Oh, when you speak to Ivan, he's going to tell you he directed the whole movie, but it's not true. I did." And then Ivan Reitman said, "Joe is the director on the movie, but really in a lot of ways I directed it." And I think it was this whole thing where the director of Space Jam was a commercial director. Space Jam is the first movie ever based on a commercial. Not a lot of people know that. So they kind of wanted this other guy, Ivan Reitman, there to, make sure the movie was meeting certain criteria and to have like an experienced person on board.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the new one?
It didn't move me. It didn't move me.
Yeah, it wasn't definitely not as impactful as that first one.
Yeah, no, it's just I don't know. Obviously, like the cameo, like Batman. If I recall correctly, Batman was in a couple of scenes, so that was like kind of lit because I love Batman. But like the actual movie itself, I don't know. It's when you compare it to the OG, like I don't know. The OG just had like a certain. Maybe I'm biased and I'm being nostalgic, but it just had a little something to it.
Yeah.
So it had a little bit more soul and some more flavor to it.
Yeah,
more so.
Word.
I think it's also a little bit because like they continued to make it for kids, but a lot of people that watch that first Space Jam movies are adults now. So we kind of like wanted a little bit to like grow with us, and it just felt like another kids movie, and it's like we can't really like relate to that as much as when we were kids watching Space Jam.
Yeah. How did you feel about it?
I had a soft spot for it, and I think part of it was when COVID was going on. I was so looking forward to it that I was using that as my like mental hurdle with COVID. I was like, all right, one of the first, all these movies were getting pushed back, and all these projects were getting pushed back at the beginning of COVID. Space Jam is one of the only ones that didn't. And it's because it's animated, and there's nothing really stopping animators from working at home. Yeah. So that whole time that COVID was going on, I told myself, all right, we just got to get to next July and Space Jam's going to come out and everything's going to be fine again.
Yeah,
And so
no,
when it came out, my
fair.
friends and I, we bought the entire back row of seats. We went about 15 of us. And we did this before the kids did it with the Minions the year later, but we all wore suits and ties. The girls wore cocktail dresses, and we cheered ballistically at every basket in the movie. And we thought the theater was going to be upset, but they were like, let's fucking go.
That's hilarious. I love to see that. I really do. And normally you know, one would think that you wouldn't see that for that movie in particular,
Yeah.
but to see people come together like that, and that's what sports and media, and when I mean media, I'm talking about TV, or maybe I should say the arts, TV, movies, music, especially poetry, whatever you wanna lump in there. That's what they have the ability to do, is to bring people together, and I think that's part of the reason why. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys don't feel this way, but that's part of the reason why we love sports and why we love music, movies, and TV.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I do know you're a Laker fan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a 2v1 right now.
It was a 2v1. It was a certain Laker in the Olympics named LeBron James got a triple-double, only the second triple-double in U.S. men's Olympic basketball history after
He's
LeBron James 10 years prior.
Crazy
Did you get a
longevity
chance to
stat.
watch the Olympics? How did you feel about it? The Serbia game, the France game. Give me your thoughts on how the Olympics went down, not only for the U.S., but also for Canada.
Well, I was going to say this. As a Lakers fan, I can't remember the last time I cheered against LeBron when I was watching that exhibition game, Canada versus the US. It was weird. I was really trying to think. When was the last time that I watched and didn't root for LeBron? And it must have been, when he was still with the Cavs and
The
some of
first
those
go around.
Lakers matchups. But I think there's two sides. I think Team Canada looks excellent. I think we just fell apart in, magnificent form. We fell apart magnificently in that last game. I feel like we felt the threat of Wemby. And we'll
He
see where
didn't
it
even
goes
play
in,
that
in,
well.
in next Olympics, because we saw in FIBA that with the right components that we have the potential to compete. I think it would have been great to have Wiggins and Benedict Mathurin and a few of those other guys there.
Zach Edey.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just sucks that Jamal Murray was also not in the form of his life for this tournament. He struggled pretty much throughout the tournament shooting. So it's like,
and
it kind of
he was probably a little bit hobbled.
I saw a meme that says he picks a different Jordan to be every game. And when he was in the playoffs versus the Lakers, those past two playoffs, he picked Michael Jordan. And this time around, he picked Jordan Poole.
It's unfortunate that Jordan Poole came out at the worst time for Canada's sake. But I am, listen, if there's one thing that I guess I don't know if excited for is the proper word, but maybe optimistic about, is that Steph, KD, and LeBron are no longer going to be there, right? And in Canada's aspect, I believe Shea would probably be 30, 31 around the next time of the Olympics, which is, I mean, in today's NBA, you're still...
He's 26, no? So probably at 30.
Yeah, 31. He's still going to be in some semblance of his prime.
Yeah.
A guy like Jamal Murray, same situation. But I'm curious to see how other guys that we don't know about yet will come along. But also a guy who I think has the talent to do so and elevate and become one of Canada's best players, Shadon Sharp, who plays for the Portland Trail Blazers. Ben Mathurin, as you mentioned, who's dealing with an injury right now. He's trying to get back to 100%. I did want to see Brandon Clark on this team. I thought he could have been very helpful on this team. But I do think that, not having KD, LeBron, and Curry can possibly bode well for Canada in 2028 in Los Angeles.
Well, I wonder too, with the fact that you're saying LeBron, KD, and Steph are not going to be there, that it's really a whole new generation of talent.
Yeah.
We see Wemby getting a silver medal, narrowly missing that gold. Feels like he's going to be spearheading the next generation of French talent with Fournier and Batum probably gone as well. I wonder if the strategy for national teams is to have an answer to Wemby. I think Edie makes a lot of sense. I think that kid from Terrebonne, Olivier Rioux, will make a lot of sense. That kid who's what 7'9" or
7'8".
I believe he will be
insane.
On Florida Gators, if I recall
he
correctly.
is on the Gators. Yeah,
Florida Gators. So no, that's
to Florida this year or something like that.
That's very possible. Tyrese Samuel, who we went to high school with, played at Seton Hall.
Did you say Tyrese Samuel on the Suns?
Tyrese Samuel, who went to our high school, the South Community Comprehensive High School, and is doing big things. Played college ball at Seton Hall, then transferred over to Florida. I thought he was very, very good at Florida, and is now with the Phoenix Suns. So you were talking about that
contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I'm surprised a player like that, he's almost 14 points a game. I'm surprised he doesn't get offered a two-way contract off the bat and kind of has to prove himself with his Exhibit 10. Not only 14 points, but we're talking like 7.5 rebounds per game also.
Yeah. He had a lot of double-doubles last year. Yeah, I remember that.
He did. He did have a lot of double-doubles.
I don't know. I know that Phoenix this year has their G League team for the first time, and it kind of completes the circle that now every single NBA team has its own G League team. So I know some teams do those Exhibit 10 contracts so that they're guaranteed the G League rights to whatever player.
Okay.
I hope he has a chance to prove himself really well, and even if it's not Phoenix per se, that another team grabs him on a two-way or on a minimum. I think another super interesting player like that from Montreal is Quincy Guerrier, who went to Syracuse and then Oregon and then ended his career at Illinois. He's a little older. He's 25 years old, but super talented. I'm kind of surprised he waited this long to draft him, to register for the draft. But has a chance to prove himself on the Raptors. I think it'd be like another cool Montreal Raptors connection, and I love seeing Montreal talent in the league. Let's see where it goes. I wonder if you guys think that there's any realm of possibility Khem Birch gets invited back to any teams after the Olympics?
That's a great question. I don't think before the start of the season. Maybe I'm wrong, and I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. But if I had to guess, I would say maybe not at the start of the season, but injuries do happen, right? Which is unfortunate.
When injuries happen. Yeah.
And I do think that if some pivotal bigs or guys that can go out there and give you quality minutes, if those guys on teams that are on teams right now get injured, I don't think it would be crazy for him to get a call up, because he gave Team Canada some quality minutes. Now, do I think he should be on a team right now? Yeah, what I saw with Team Canada, I think he could do just as good as some other guys in the league that are taking up some roster spots. I really do.
I believe he's with the team that Marc Gasol owns out in Spain is where he's playing right now. And he was like super grateful for getting a second chance from Marc Gasol. But it's also like, I know he had an injury history towards the end of his NBA tenure, but he was technically on the Spurs. They could have kept him as like somewhat of a mentor for Wemby. Would have been interesting as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely a great point. I don't know. I hope to see him back. Obviously, as Montrealers, as Canadians, we want to see as many Montreal guys and Canadian guys as possible. But I wouldn't be shocked by any stretch if he does find his way back to the NBA. And I think his performance with Team Canada would really bolster that possibility. And it's unfortunate that he didn't get an opportunity to showcase that past France in the semifinals against Germany and potentially in the finals against Team USA. And while watching that game, France versus USA, I was just like, damn, like this should be Canada right now, man. Canada should have been in this situation. Like, on paper, they have the best roster.
Yeah.
Aside from Team USA, they have the best roster, in my opinion, at least. And unfortunately, France just they didn't come ready to play, especially in the first quarter, in the first half. And the refs were kind of shoddy at best, to say the least. So
It's weird to have home court advantage during an Olympics, right? But you could argue that.
you definitely could. I know I have some friends that were watching that game that will tell you right now that they will acknowledge that Canada didn't play the greatest, yes, but the refereeing was highly, highly, highly questionable, and I don't think they're crazy for thinking that. I'll say
the
that.
free throws were like
There was
so
a 17. There was a 17. Different, like a 17 free throw differential between the two. If I recall correctly, France had 42, and Canada had like 27 or something, 25, something along those lines. But I want to go to this NBA season upcoming. Obviously, the Boston Celtics, defending NBA champions.
just brought back the entire roster.
They just brought back the entire roster, but other teams did improve. Mr. Wavvy, how do you feel about this upcoming season, particularly with the Lakers, of course, as I know you're a Lakers fan, and whether or not you think the Celtics can actually repeat as NBA champion?
This is not a safe space for me anymore talking about the Celtics. I thought I was on a podcast to have fun. I feel ambushed.
Hey,
No,
if it makes you feel any better,
so
it's
me and
2v1.
my barber, Alain, he works at Fades in Brooklyn in Westmount, shout out him, is a huge Celtics fan. And we have done bets in the past. Last season, I bet him if the Lakers do better in the playoffs than the Celtics,
no,
then you got to shave an LA into the back of your head. And I said, if they do better, I will shave the clover in the back of mine.
That's
And
crazy.
so we went down to technicalities because they both got knocked out in the same round, right? They were both conference finals.
Yeah.
Boston won, or Boston brought it to game 7. Lakers lost in 6. I honestly kept my end of the bargain and didn't try to argue and was so honest that I got a little fucking 3-leaf clover in the back of my head. And that's how you know Boston. Man, they don't even got the 4-leaf clover luck. It's some 3-leaf clover.
Oh my gosh. You are a better man than me, because I wouldn't even have proposed that bet just because of the fear. The fear alone of having to have that on the back of my head would have done enough damage to me to not even go through with that bet by any stretch at all.
Well, I'll say this. I feel like me losing, I could argue a bunch of different things. Maybe I'm just like a Guinness fan, or I like House of Pain, jump around. but you can't argue you can't pretend a lot of things if it's LA in the back of your head.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I listen. There may be people that if they seen that 3-leaf clover on the back of your head would not make the correlation that it's the Celtics. So at least
you're Irish, bro. People know, right?
Exactly. So you could get away with it from that aspect. You definitely could. Which Canadian do you think is gonna step up the most next season in the NBA?
Mathurin is going to be great. I think it's hard to say if any Canadian player is going to make the jump to All-Star, because I feel like despite the whole Olympic performance and the second round of the playoffs, the only contender that hasn't made it yet is Jamal Murray. And I feel like that's just matter of fact. There's no one that comes possibly close to him. I think Andrew Nembhard on the Pacers was awesome, and glad to see him get a nice little contract. And then
he crushed in the playoffs too.
Like Benedict was missing in those playoffs. You got to remember that, and I feel like he could have been a real difference maker if he was around.
I agree with that. And Nembhard, Barry, like you were saying, Nembhard did have some very good performances in the playoffs.
Yeah, when Halliburton came down, he was pretty much their best player. He was raining threes on us like crazy.
Yeah, that is true. And also shout out to another guy, former Pacer, who's also Canadian, Chris Duarte. Shout out to him, because I think he definitely I don't know how much of an impact he could have made, but it's always good to have NBA bodies on an international level. I'll say that.
So I don't know if you know, because I've been confused for years. I think I've literally read conflicting reports over the years, but how is he Montreal? Was he born in Montreal or and then moved immediately, or the born in Dominican and raised a bit in Montreal? Because I've read both things on the same part of the internet. I feel like I've read both on Wikipedia.
So Duarte, from what I'm reading here, Duarte was born in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. His father was Canadian and died when Duarte was 6 months old, 6 months old, and his mother was Dominican. So I guess that's the connection.
Yeah, I know he doesn't. I know I'm like happy to rep anyone who's Montreal adjacent. So I'm happy to call him Montrealer. But I
Maybe,
know he doesn't claim Montreal whatsoever. I think there's also that new kid on George on the Wizards whose father is a Montrealer. I think he's a Swiss kid.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, nice.
And so he'll be playing in that Raptors Wizards game that's coming here. You guys see all the Raptors rebranding? 30 years. He's in the purple.
How do you feel about it? You like it?
I think, however, I have felt about as a Montrealer, I know that's Canada's team and this and that, but I don't know how you guys feel, but as a Montrealer, I am taught to hate every Toronto team under the sun. I don't care if they're Canada's only team, that's still Toronto's team as far as I'm concerned.
So
I have so much respect for their championship run, and I have so much respect for them on like a marketing and branding level. I think they've made so many genius moves in that respect over the past 3 decades. But it's very hard for me to like align and say I'm a Raptors fan in any capacity. I like to see them do well though.
It's same for me. Like everyone says, like, oh, it's Canada's team or whatever, but like the teams I support are in their division. Same for baseball and basketball. So it's like it's tough for me. Like I remember when the Blue Jays went on that run and Jose Bats hit that walk-off home run. Everyone's like, I couldn't like get behind it just because of me being such a big Red Sox fan. I was like, I just can't support this.
So I always disliked the Raptors because I just thought they were so. Everyone, it's like you were saying, Mr. Wavvy, everyone's Canada's team. You should support, blah blah. And I'm just like, I don't support teams that I don't think are gonna do nothing, and they didn't do nothing. Yeah, they made the conference finals against Cleveland, but everyone and their mama knew that they were not going to no NBA finals as long as LeBron was healthy and showed up to the game. Everyone knew it. But then
sorry, look, I'm cutting you off.
No, it's all good. No. Then my guy Kawhi Leonard pulled up. And I love Kawhi Leonard. I really do. He was my guy. He still is my guy, especially after Kobe. Kobe retired. Kawhi Leonard was my guy. And I was a fan for that run. The 1 year Kawhi was there, I was a fan. Ever since then, I've been off. As soon as he left, I left. So I don't support Toronto no more. But I did because Kawhi Leonard is probably still my favorite basketball player in the league right now.
I've heard this. I believe someone on I believe it was Bill Simmons who said something like this, but he said that Raptors run was like if your buddy came up to you one night and was like, "Hey, man, here's my girlfriend," and it's like Bella Hadid, and then they break up after like 6 months. You're like, all right, I dated Bella Hadid. What do you like?
I guess it happened.
Whatever they want to say. If they had Kawhi for 1 year or 4 years, they won a championship. Like you got the everyone's dream.
Absolutely. Listen, for me, that Raptors championship is a top 5. I don't think all titles are created equally. I know it does show up like that in the statistical category, but not all championships are created equally for me. I think that's a top 5 championship run of all time. Probably top 3. My top 3 would personally be, fortunately, LeBron coming back from 3-1 down. I have to put it in there. I'm not a LeBron fan. I'm sorry. Dirk in 2011. And then I think the Raptors, and this is not in order, any particular order, but then I think Kawhi in 2019, their Raptors team, I think would be a top 3 championship in NBA history for me.
And you're just talking about in our lifetime. You're not talking about the Jordan.
Yeah, like I'll say modern era. Like I'm not going to start going to the Minneapolis Lakers and George Mikan because like I don't know. I don't know. Let's say from the creation of the 3-point line when it first got introduced into the NBA, 1979-80. Let's say from there, from that season onwards, I would say it's top five.
That's tough because you could argue like a lot of those, like the Lakers run where they lost that one game against Philadelphia and like almost had an entirely undefeated playoff run
Yeah.
is, I feel, a contender. I feel like, as much as I don't like to admit it, the Pistons in '04, like that's one
Yeah.
of, I believe, the only run without a top 75 NBA player.
And those guys should be, with all due respect. Like, peace and love to Dolph. I'm losing my train of thought. Peace and love, yeah. Peace and love to Dolph Shays, one of an NBA pioneer in like the 50s or the 50s or the 40s. But Dolph Shays is not a better basketball player than Ben Wallace or Chauncey Billups or Rip Hamilton or Tayshaun Prince. But I understand the legacy, the importance of pioneering. I get that. But no one, okay, is taking Dolph Shays on their team over Ben Wallace. It's just not happening.
No.
But great call. 2004 was an incredible run.
Going back to the Raptors for 1 second, as a Lakers fan, I feel weird admitting this, but I think if the bubble hadn't happened, that Toronto would have made the
Beat the
finals again.
Celtics.
I think the Toronto would have made the finals again. I don't know who the Western competitor would have been. I think there's a lot of ways to
Clippers.
look at that, but
Clippers.
I think Marc Gasol lost his swagger when he came back into the bubble. And I think a couple of other players were just kind of just never the same. Lowry
Yeah.
was never All-Star Lowry again. And that time off really like permanently damaged some players' aura, or however you want to, aura, athleticism, however you want to flip it. But I think the Raptors could have had like a very meaningful shot at running it back if it wasn't for the bubble. And people on the Lakers, like Dwight Howard was predicting that it was going to be them versus Raptors if the season picked up.
And it's funny that you said, and Barry, I'm gonna let you get to it because I know it's your Celtics that are in question here. But a lot of people felt like, because the Raptors had the better record, and so they would have had Game 7 at home in Toronto. A lot of people felt like, and myself included, that the Raptors would have beaten the Celtics because of the home court advantage that they would have had in a potential Game 7 at home. And listen, that Raptors team was essentially the same. They were just missing Kawhi. That's really all it was. So I don't think that's crazy out of finals.
That Miami Heat team, like
That
Jimmy
Miami team
was,
it kind of seemed like they were just on a mission, but it
Jimmy was on
definitely would
another.
release. But Barry, what do you think?
You could argue that the Lakers would have won it anyways with the home court advantage situation too, because that was the year that Kobe passed away. Just imagining the momentum of a crowd at those games in memory of Kobe. Very similarly to how I felt that Boston did it for Bill Walton this year. It makes a difference when you have like someone to play in honor of.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I listen. I just thought the Clippers
They didn't
would
want to
have
be
been in the finals. They didn't want to. It's very well documented. They did not want to be in the bubble. And
Lemon
and
pepper Lou.
Lemon pepper Lou. I still got to head out to Hotlanta one day and try them wings out one day. Mr. Wavy, finally, last thing I want to get to. If you had to put a timestamp on when you think the Montreal Alliance will win their first CEBL championship, when would you say it would be?
I really hate to say this, but I think there's something going on in the organization right now that is kind of hindering it from having that championship potential. And I think that is that certain elements of the team care more about names in marketing than they do having the people who might be best equipped to formulate the best team. And I don't mean any disrespect to Joel Anthony per se, but I think the fact that you have a former two-time NBA championship as your GM is a name sell. You know, you're selling tickets to the game by saying we have, you know, an NBA legend as part of our team. You know, when maybe the best guy to compile a team together is not a big name and just someone who's really keeping their eyes and ears to you know, the Canadian basketball scene in general. You know, whether that's youth sports or you know, Canadian-born players, because I think they did a good job with the exports, like Chris Smith and Ahmed Hill as the two American guys on the team. Those were the
Ahmed
best
Hill's
players
been,
on the team.
yeah.
So you know, you have Joel Anthony, you have Ebe, who's the assistant GM, and Chris Boucher's manager. Is like, you know, another big name on the team. And there's other places on the team though where it's kind of like big names, but you get the results. Like Charles Dubé-Brest, the assistant coach, he was the coach for DeMarcus Cousins in Taiwan and came to the season a little late because they had just won the championship. So I think it's all about Montreal loves basketball. I don't think you need names to market it as much as they might be putting emphasis on. And so, you know, find the right people who could place proper emphasis on scouting and constructing the best team. And, you know, it's been 3 seasons so far, and we haven't seen the results we're looking for. So maybe, unfortunately, it's time to move some furniture or you know, put an emphasis on strategy over marketing, because I think the fans are there.
And I think that's a great point, is that Montreal isn't some small town, some small city. Montreal is right there with Toronto as the two biggest cities. And I would say Vancouver's third. No disrespect. I'm just saying I would say Montreal and Toronto are the two biggest cities in Canada. Montreal likes winners. You look at the Montreal Canadiens, 24 Stanley Cups, the most illustrious NHL franchise in terms of winning in NHL history. You look at the Montreal Alouettes. When Anthony Calvillo retired, it was some dark days. They just win the Grey Cup last season with Cody Fajardo. They're 8-1 this season. And people tune in. CF Montreal, before Wilfred Nancy left, the CF Montreal was one of the best teams in the league, selling out stadium.
And that's another example.
Georgi Mihalovic, they were.
Georgi Mihalovic had a fantastic season.
That's another example though, where you have like a name for marketing's sake that's not necessarily getting results. Like Thierry being the head coach wasn't necessarily getting results we're looking for, but was damn sure selling tickets that you have a legend of the game.
Exactly.
To be fair,
heading your team.
Since then, he's been doing well. He just brought France to the final of the Olympics?
Against Spain, yeah.
Yeah, so like he's developing more as a coach now, but at the time, yeah. He had just finished being the Belgium's assistant coach and then not really getting much success. But yeah, at that time, it was just before COVID that they had hired him, and the success wasn't really there at that time. Yeah.
And
Habs had, you know, Guy Carbonneau for years, and it was like, okay, this is like a warm blanket. This is like a friendly hug. This is a name we all know, but sometimes you need discomfort to have results.
Say worse, just the GM at the same time was Bob Gainey. That's another comfort move. He was terrible here. He's a legend as a player in Montreal, but he wasn't a good GM here. It is what it is.
You know, if you want to talk 30 years of the Raptors, the first, I'm not remembering if he was president or GM, but Isaiah Thomas was involved in the front office of the Raptors.
Yes.
And part of it was the sell. They had him come out of the Raptors logo, like that was like a giant poster, and like, surprise, it's Isaiah. And you know, they considered a lot of other people, Kareem amongst one of them as the first head coach of the team. And maybe the Raptors didn't have the success they were looking for off the bat, you know, in part because it was a name who was well known and could sell tickets, but not someone who could construct a winning team. And also, it is an expansive team. Like, maybe it's not fair to give that criticism.
But they're like, if you don't sell tickets right away, maybe the franchise doesn't stick around. So I guess you can see like both aspects. But if you build the winning team right off the bat, again, that's hard, but people will come. People will come see exciting young basketball or anything with sports.
Going back to your point about, you know, CF Montreal having Thierry Henry. Sorry, there's 10 minutes left. going back to your point about Thierry Henry and CF Montreal, yeah, Thierry Henry is, we all know one of the best strikers of his era, one of the best strikers of all time, certainly one of the best players, the top two in the Premier League ever. And he sold tickets because he's a name. But once again, Wilfred Nancy sold tickets because the team was good. And Saputo Stadium was a fortress once upon a time, not too long ago. And I think if the Montreal Alliance can recognize that it's not about the big names, it's about how good you are. That's what Montreal cares about. Can you win? Can you produce? Because let me tell you something. If the Montreal Alliance were undefeated this year, or they went 14-6 instead of 6-14, or 16-15, whatever it was, they would have had even more eyeballs on them because this city values winning over anything else. So I do hope that the Montreal Alliance can recognize that and prioritize winning over marketing and big names.
Let me say one more thing about the structure of the CEBL that it would change.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any need for the championship weekend to be structured like a Grey Cup or like a Super Bowl. And I get that the commissioner, Mike Montreal, is a past Grey Cup winner and CFL alumni, but I don't think there's any actual advantage to engage fans with having a different city every year. If your team is doing well, I think just
rewarded.
Have it be like the NBA or like any basketball league and have the finals and the playoffs be in the cities where the teams who are playing reside.
Yeah,
you work hard for home court advantage, right? So it's like
that's a great point.
All season.
That's a great point. Mr. Wavvy, thank you for joining us here on episode 16 of Unmatched. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And this won't be the last time because we're gonna have to do this again. We have to. There's so many more stories that we have to get to, not just in sports, but in your own journalism career. Some Wu-Tang Clan stories, some Mac Miller stories. We're gonna say that we can't drop everything for you in one shot. We just can't. So, Mr. Wavy, thank you again for joining us, and we hope we can do this sometime soon.
Hey, it was a pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me.
All the best. Me and Barufa and not Paul, because Paul's still on vacation. We will have some the latest on Premier League moves, Serie A moves. The Premier League started this week, so we definitely have to get to the off season. Yes, and Serie A. We definitely have to get to the off season transfers. So thank you for joining us. Click, like, comment, subscribe, hate if you want to hate. It's clicks. Who cares? Who cares? Just do it. And we'll be back. We will be back.
Unmatched in hate too.
Yes.
It's a word that has a lot of meaning. It could mean whatever you want it to be.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Wavy. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you,
for
guys.
tuning in, and we'll be back soon. Peace.
Welcome back into Unmatched. So this is basically the second half of our show, or the first half, depending on where we go.
Yeah.
Thank you once again to Mr. Wavy for joining us, depending on what half we're putting this in. But we missed a lot. We did miss a lot. I believe the last time we spoke was at the end of the Euros.
Yeah, end of the Euros, pre-Olympics.
Yeah, and we missed the entirety of the Olympics, which was a blast to watch.
Yeah,
really and truly. But I must say, the transfer market was pretty interesting.
One of the most exciting ones in a long time.
Yes.
A lot of movement, a lot of money moved.
You better believe it. What were some of the ones that you thought were the best moves that teams made?
Are we considering Mbappe part of this, even though he was on a free?
Yeah, sure. Mbappe's number one.
Absolutely number one. You could already see in the Super Cup final, was it yesterday or the day before? Scored a goal, helped them beat Atalanta. Like, he's going to kill it there. It's just funny. I keep seeing all the names where it's like, oh, you have the whole lineup. And then on the left side, you got Vinny Jr., Mbappe, and Rodrigo. It's like, oh, yeah, they're all just one wing, and you have no one for the central and the right side. They'll make it work. They're talented enough to make it work. You got a great coach that will know how to fit personalities together. He's done that his whole career. He had a team in Milan where it was personality sent, like it was just every player was an icon. So it's like
If
They'll
there's
figure it
one
out.
guy that can manage this roster, it's
Yeah.
Ancelotti. Absolutely.
He knows he's probably the best at managing superstars. So it's
Yes, I agree with
but
that.
I think they'll be able to mesh very quickly. I think for me, the other like best signing of the summer was probably Julian Alvarez, just because like obviously not as proven, but like when he's given the minutes, he's kind of always shined. So it's like, and Atletico are kind of like striker heaven.
Yeah.
They've had a great history where it's been like Forlan, it's been Torres, it's been a Guerrero, even when the old guys show up with Villa, Suarez, like they just constantly have Griezmann when he plays striker there. Like they just kind of just always have a recycling door of great strikers to come out of. So I feel like that's just another one to fit in Simeone's system. And he's just a guy who works hard too. So it kind of works well. Like he's a guy like he's not a lazy type striker. So I feel like it's kind of perfect fit for him at this point of his career.
And I think that's great because if you don't succeed as a striker in Atletico Madrid, excuse me, it's not because you're not having opportunities. They will put their guys in opportunities to score as many goals as they possibly can, and it's just whether or not you can bury those chances.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they've had a revolving door of very, very good strikers for maybe close to 15 years now.
More, probably 20. When was Forlan there? Forlan was there in the early 2000s, right? So like,
yeah, and then I think he came back a little bit later.
After like, yeah, he went all around the place, but
exactly.
Like, just
no, they have the talent, man. They definitely do have the talent, and I think getting younger at that spot, and Julian Alvarez is probably, I would rather have Julian Alvarez on my team right now as opposed to Alvaro Morata, just because of the stages of their career, obviously. And Alvarez is a little bit more dynamic, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's also a very underrated signing. You know what I mean? That a lot of people maybe
heavy
may
fee,
not
but
about.
like,
yeah,
like I think 80 mil, but like I think worth every penny.
Exactly, and a guy who I believe they also are potentially getting Conor Gallagher. I saw that some of the money might not be able to.
It had fallen through the last time I checked, and Gallagher had gone back to Chelsea, but they're apparently, I think they're still trying to work through it. So, I mean, hopefully that deal goes through because, bro, Chelsea's squad depth is too much. They got too many players on that team. It's way too
actually
many.
stupid. It's actually very stupid.
It's like no guy is going to be able to shine because you're just going to be rotating because the squad is so big. Like every game is going to be a new four.
The only players that are gonna get a lot of opportunities to really just be themselves without like having to worry like, oh, is this guy gonna start over? Is Cole Palmer?
Yeah.
Enzo Fernandez.
Caicedo, I think too. I mean, Caicedo and Lavia are probably gonna just rotate because they're both CDMs, right? So it's like, but like again, the price tag they played for Caicedo, you gotta have him in there every game. You paid nearly 100 million for him last year, like
exactly. And then Reece James when he's healthy.
When healthy, he's already hurt again. Already missing the first couple weeks of the season.
Exactly. Maybe Chilwell. I don't know.
Apparently, he might be out of favor now. Like last I was reading about
I'm not really a Chilwell fan that much, to be honest with you. I think he's all right.
Well, they got Euro hero now, right? They got Cucurella. So if he continues the form from the Euro, he was the best left back in the tournament. So it's like,
but you see, he just has to be used like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the only problem is how is he gonna be used? That's the only issue. For me at least.
Absolutely.
I honestly really like the Xerxes to Man U. I really do like it. Yeah, we all know he's supposed to go to Milan or whatever. It's okay. We
didn't want to pay the agent fees.
Didn't want to pay. The agent was asking for ridiculous money. And we didn't want to pay it, and I'm cool with us not paying it. It's fine. To me, this just tells me that they're confident in Francesco Camarda, because they're just saying, you know what, we'll just get another guy. Alvaro Morata can give us 2-3 years, and then by then Camarda will be ready to go, and he can become our full-fledged starter game in and game out. So I'm cool with it. I don't have a problem.
I think like
Uh,
you guys just want him to have a good year with the Milan
in Serie C.
U team, yeah, the U team this season,
Yeah.
and probably use him as a backup next season, and
Yeah.
then let him have the keys after that type thing. Like give him 2 years to develop, and then kind of let him roll if he's in form. So
Yeah. Barry, I'm just hoping that he pans out, man. I'm really hoping. Not only for Milan, but for Italian
Italy,
football.
yeah. And it's
You know
also
what I
like
mean?
we've had this bad couple years now with everyone making fun of Italian training, where all our youth guys just get injured and everyone tears their ACL. Seems like it's a fucking new thing every week where it's like, oh, another Italian tears his ACL, and it doesn't look like, well, we had Zaniolo did it twice, Chiesa did it, Scalvini just did it. Like there's so many of the young Italian guys that Scamacca, yeah, just last week or 2 weeks ago towards ACL looked pretty bad. Like everyone's just making fun of how we train. It's very like 80s, like very old school, and I guess it's not. Your body just can't take it anymore. So
Yeah.
hopefully
No,
they
so
actually take his training properly.
absolutely. And you know, him and Liberali are some of the futures of Milan. You know, Liberali
Liberali
has looked
looks
really good.
nice.
He looks
Like,
really good.
I was
So,
watching some of like, 'cause I haven't watched the youth games or the preseason games, but I've seen like his highlights. His dribbling is insane. That guy, people are saying like next level dribbling, like worldwide, like one of the best out of the world at dribbling. So I've seen him in tight corners, get through people. Like it's special.
I'm praying, bro. I'm praying. I need to
That's
see
a nice winger
I need to
to
witness
have.
a golden era for Milan. A lot of people that grew up in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s when they were actually, you know, able to process what was happening properly, they know how good those teams are, those Milan teams. I need to see a golden era of Milan. I just need it, please. But I like Xerxes to Man U. I think,
Yeah,
you know, it takes a lot of pressure off of Højlund to be the main guy. And Xerxes is just better at Højlund at this point in his career. And it's gonna be nice to see Xerxes. You know, obviously Bologna had a quality team, of course. They made
they
it to a
had so many
Champions
young
League
guys.
spot,
Yeah,
for sure. But now he's going to, you know, a spot with where a guy like Bruno Fernandes is gonna be feeding the ball, like Casemiro, excuse me. He has Rashford and Garnacho on the wings. You know what I mean? Like he's really going into a spot with, you know, very, very talented guy. So he'll have plenty of opportunities to showcase exactly what he's capable of.
and I think it could really turn out well if they figure out a way to play both of them at the same time. Like if you can play Højlund as the main striker and have Xerxes play a little bit more behind because he is better with the ball at his feet and build up play. Like everyone kind of like last season was comparing him to a young Ibra. And it like you could see the same qualities. Is very like very good technically on the ball, very good dribbler, good at passing. So it's like if you can utilize both of them together as like I remember I was watching Xerxes talk maybe like a month ago, after, like right after the signing. He's like, I don't see myself as a 9, and I don't see myself as a 10. I see myself as a 9.5, which everyone kind of ridiculed him for that because it's like, okay, you're making like it's just everyone's making fun of new age soccer now anyway. So it's like
no, but he's basically a Del Piero. You know what I mean? Del
like
Piero was not a full-fledged striker. He was a center forward, you know?
Yeah. So it's like if you can utilize those qualities in the build-up play to pair with Højlund, because Højlund's natural talent is insane, especially he can be very clinical. So if you can have that dynamic duo for 5-10 years, that sets them up for what they haven't been able to do for the last 10-15 years, right? Since Sir Alex left.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I think they're winning the league this year. That's just me. I
can't see it. I think they're still a bit too dysfunctional, especially the midfield is a little like Kobe Minu is great, very young. I think Casemiro's done as an elite player.
Listen, he's playing good right now. Manchester United are currently in action against Fulham. It's 0-0 at halftime. Second half's about to start. But Casemiro's been playing very good in this game, at least.
Okay.
But we'll see how he does in the course of a season.
Yeah,
obviously.
and see if his legs can hold up. That was the big thing last season. Was his legs were looking like they were done. So,
but And this is why I think they're going to win the league, because there's another guy. So I was confident that they could get Delic. They got the deal done. They get a Mazraoui, who I would argue is an upgrade
On
at the
our
right back position.
over Wan-Bissaka for sure.
And no insult to Wan-Bissaka,
No,
because
he's been
Wan-Bissaka
giving
was quality.
nothing going forward. That was the only problem with Wan-Bissaka. Like, he was good.
Exactly.
He's a great. Everyone talks about great tackler, good at recovery tackles and all that. But trying to push the ball forward and have some sort of creativity, he couldn't do at all. So
exactly. So you get him, you get Lenny Yoro, who I think is going to be a star center back in someday, and maybe not this season, but at some point.
No.
And then you, like I said, you and I are both very high on Delic. We think he has a lot to offer. He's still only 23 years old.
Yeah.
I think
Leader,
maybe hopefully
captain.
You're with Eric Ten Hag, who has been your manager before, so he knows how to use you. Maybe he can get back to that Juventus Ajax Delic that we saw and we thought would become one of the best center backs.
Not even just that. Delic's
in
first season at Bayern was good too.
Yeah,
he had a very good season the first year there, and then it was just last season. I don't know why he fell out of favor. Yeah, but not like they were playing Eric Dyer over him. You can't tell me Eric Dyer is a better center back than Delic.
He's not. And people will say, well, that's a knock on Delic. He should be better than Eric Dyer. Sometimes motherfuckers just don't get playing time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it really is just coaching. Sometimes the coach don't put the player in the right position to succeed. Like, you can't always blame it on, well, why isn't the player, maybe that's an indictment on Delic. No, because could he have been useful for Netherlands in the Euro? Yeah. But you got a dummy in Ronald Koeman who didn't play him a single minute. Mm-hmm. Like, you could have put Nathan Ake's played fullback before.
So many minutes. Yes, so many minutes at left back.
Okay. And also, you could also just run a 3 center back system with Delic, with Van Dijk, and with Ake. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, also, they weren't playing Frimpong a majority of the time anyway.
Which is also dumb.
Was the best fullback in the world last year, so it's kind of didn't make sense.
Like, it's so like they should hire us to just come in there and tell these coaches, what is your reasoning? What's the logic? Because what you're putting on paper right now, the team looks like hot ass, straight ass cheeks. Mm-hmm. And look, Netherlands, if you gave Frimpong and Delic some minutes, maybe you go to the Euro final against England, and against Spain, and maybe you win.
Yeah,
those types of decisions matter. Calafiori, our very own Riccardo Calafiori, Italy's finest.
Roma youth product.
Roma youth product. Heading to Arsenal. How do you like the move? Because we haven't spoken about it since it happened.
I've mixed. Because, I've been reading he's going to be playing left back for them.
I don't like that.
He had the breakout season last year playing as a center back. He had a breakout year at the Euros playing center back.
Yeah.
So, you're seeing all that, and, I understand you got Gabriel and you got Saliba. But if you're going to, Calafiori was a good young left back when he was in Roma, because that's the position he came out playing. And after the ACL injury, he kind of fell out of favor in that position. I don't know if it's because he lost a step from what he was back then, but he kind of fell into that role as a center back and excelled. So why are you going to sign a guy and then change his position all over again?
Do you think that's a team that, because look, you look at their they don't have a guy, a left back or a right back, that for me to be you can't run a 3 center back system.
They play 4 center backs. Ben White's a center back.
Yes.
Saliba's a center back. Gabriel's a center back. And now Calafiori's a center back.
Exactly.
They're going to be running a 4 center back system, but playing 4 at the back.
Which is stupid to me.
Yeah.
Play 3 center backs. Make Ben White come off as a substitution whenever you need him to. Because it's not even like you have a bona fide fullback that's it's not like you have a Teo Hernandez or a Frimpong where it's we can't not have him on the field.
No.
Right? So why not just run 3 center backs? I don't understand this. You know what I mean?
It's not only that, what's his name? The other right back that they used, the Japanese guy.
Tomiyasu.
When he played for Bologna, he was a center back. So it's all these guys were at one point center backs in their careers. So it's you could run a 3 center back system and then rotate guys on when you play lesser opponents or you play in cup games.
Absolutely.
I don't know if Arteta plays 3 at the back system. So I mean, Pep at
You
one
got to
point
be
played 3
adaptable,
at the
bro.
back.
Like
So yeah,
you have to.
Pep
Like it's so.
changed it to 3 at the back at one point. So it's like if you can't adapt to the players I mean, obviously you want to bring in players to fit your style, but if you got a plethora of center backs and they all could play, why not?
Exactly. And it reminds me of a quote that Ancelotti said. He was talking about how he was coaching Baggio, I believe it was at Parma. And Baggio excelled as a like a cam.
He played. It was center forward. It was his best position was like a center forward.
A center forward. Essentially,
Yeah.
cam or center forward. I can't remember the exact position that Ancelotti said, but he was essentially he told Baggio like, yo, like I'm not putting you there. You know what I mean? Like I just don't like I don't run that type of system.
Yeah.
And Ancelotti looked back at it, he's like, I was dumb. I should have put him in his best position to succeed, especially a guy like that. And he made sure not to make that mistake with Zidane when he went to Juventus. And that's what, to me, that's the makings of a great manager. Not a manager that constantly needs his system type of players, but a guy that can take guys that aren't normally a part of his system and adapt his philosophies and his coaching methods around those guys. That's why I love Ancelotti. I cannot speak highly enough about the man. I think he's the greatest manager of all time. I really do. And Mikel Arteta, listen, let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, still young in his coaching career.
Yes, let's see how it plays out. But not only his coaching career, but how this essentially 4 center back system is going to work with having 2 center backs as your fullbacks. Let's see how it works out a little bit. If it's good, sure. But if you're starting to see you're struggling, listen, I know you don't run a 3 center back system, but you have to adapt. It's that simple for me. It's really and truly that simple. And I don't know if this is a real quote, so don't put this in the thing. But did you see like how apparently I really don't know if this is true. Maybe I got baited, but it didn't seem like an account that I recognized like that normally said fake shit.
Yeah.
But like Arteta was like, I saw Calafiori play and I fell in love with more than just his game. It's his like
I don't know if that's real. But
it's hilarious.
The whole thing that would happen through the Euro. Remember when everyone's like, "Oh, Calafiori's aura." You just think he's hot. Stop saying aura. It's like it's the funniest shit. Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so jokes. Let's head to Roma. You guys got
we got a couple of signings. It's the most money I've ever seen us spend in a transfer window. We spent close to over 100 million this window. We signed.
How did you feel about the signings?
Love the Sule signing. Was pushing for that one. I watched him at Frosinone last year, and like he was 20 years old. He's still a kid, but like he showed that he was way too good to be on that type of team for a team who got relegated. Obviously, it was one of the weird ones last year because they were one of the teams playing the most exciting version of soccer, but they got relegated on the last day of the season, and it was heartbreaking. I remember their coach last year was a former Roma coach, Eusebio Di Francesco, and he was crying because the team showed like they had talent and that they deserved to stay up, but like probably defensively they probably lacked a little bit of talent because offensively they were killed. I mean, they had a bunch of Juve guys last year as loan players. They had the guy that just went to Aston Villa for Douglas Luiz, the midfielder, who I like too. He looked like a great box-to-box mid. And then Sule looked fantastic. He looked like the most creative guy on the pitch almost every game he played. So I'm excited to see what he could do. I'm very hoping that there's 2 weeks left in the transfer window. I really hope Dybala stays because I think their partnership together, and there was the whole reason why he came to us was because he called Dybala his big brother. He's like, I dreamt of playing with him. So it'd be kind of tough to see us start the season and not have that connection start. Also very excited to see how Dalvik plays in Serie A. Led La Liga in scoring last year with Girona. So that's a big move for us.
That's true. That is very true. Listen, I think that I like the signings that you guys
Mhm.
made. Um,
The one I'm a little not worried about, but I really want to see, like, we signed this midfielder their fee for like 25 million. We had spoken about this like when it happened in the podcast, like 2 months ago or whatever. And like if it pans out, I think it's a great signing because that means we're playing Cristante less. And like Cristante coming off the bench is a lot better than Cristante starting.
yeah,
Because like we saw it in the Euro. It's not that he does things wrong, it's just that he doesn't do anything well. He's just kind of a meh player
yeah,
overall. So it's just
yeah,
like there's no reason to have him playing every week. Like I'd rather have Lefi play with Paredes as deep midfielders, and it kind
yeah,
of just works better. And he's looked good in the preseason, so I'm excited to see. Like I wasn't too thrilled with the price tag when it happened, but
yeah,
watching him throughout preseason, it kind of warmed up to the fact that we paid that much to him because he's looked so good. And then we signed
yeah.
two young fullbacks. We signed one Swedish guy named Dal, and then another Spanish 17-year-old Sangare or something like that. I'm excited. We're getting young guys and proven guys, so it's a good little mix for this transfer window for us that we
And it's
never
good
spend money.
because depth was the thing that you guys lacked sorely
Yeah,
last season,
yeah,
especially. And it's good to see that you guys have a little bit more depth, so that way you're not putting too much of a strain
yeah,
on your day in and day out starters. So I'm also
yeah.
glad to see that.
Well, yeah. Last year, if we didn't play our starting 11, we lost. It was just we
Yeah,
couldn't. The bench couldn't hold up, and it, the same thing what Mourinho said the 2.5 years he was here, and the same thing that us he said that the squad depth wasn't there. I mean, we didn't really we spent no money when Jose was coaching our team and bought pretty much everyone on freeze or loans. So it's kind of exciting to see that we actually spent money this window and actually bought players instead of just
yeah,
loaned every year and having to have new guys every season. Like you can build something now.
that's true. That's a great point. And as for Milan,
You
they
just got
just
signed
got.
Fofana yesterday, which is
I
finally
listen.
because you
I'm
spent
not
two
even gonna
months
put.
on trying to.
Oh my god! I don't even get me started on that. But like, I'm not even gonna pretend to like know what we're getting. I don't
Yeah.
know. I've never watched him play
Mm-hmm.
really. So I apparently I hear good things, but I mean, how often are you
Yeah.
gonna hear bad things? Um, I only hear good things that he's gonna really help in that number 6 role for Milan, kind of sharpen up the team a little bit,
Yeah,
which I think
box to
would be
box type
fantastic.
midfield, where it's like
Yeah,
you kind of fill that role where Benacer used to play, but because he tore his ACL and didn't really look like his old self last season, you kind of have someone in that position now.
yeah.
To
And
pair
listen,
perfectly with Reinders, who's Tijani Reinders last season was a great signing for you guys.
absolutely.
So
And we won all our preseason games. We beat Man City, we beat Real, we
yeah.
beat Barca. So Finesca,
Fonseca.
thank you. Fonseca,
He's gonna. I dealt with him for 2 years. 2 years, yeah. He'll send out flexible lineups and like games where you're like, what's going on here? And then like some games you'll look fantastic, and it's like, but why is this not what it
but I'm
is? There's no.
hoping that because, and no disrespect, but I'm hoping that because we have a little bit more quality and depth,
Mm-hmm.
that won't be out. The ups and downs won't be as bad
Yeah.
because you have all this talent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did like that. So Alvaro Morata, like I do like that signing as well.
Placeholder striker, right? Like
He's
you
a
said
he's a
before.
exactly. He's a younger version of a Olivier, or not even that much
Yeah.
younger, but a younger version of a Olivier Giroud,
Yeah.
nonetheless. Other than that, I mean, we didn't really make too many crazy moves.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Fonseca is gonna make some smart decisions and have Pulisic as our number 10 and have Chukwueze
Yes.
on the right, which
Where
I
it should have
mean
been all of last season.
everyone in their nunna was clamoring for, because that was the best lineup that we could have possibly fielded. And us and Inter are in talks for maybe getting a Chiesa. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just
I don't
don't.
see him working for you guys.
I don't see it working for either team because I think
No,
he's a guy that he doesn't deserve to be coming off the bench in any capacity.
no,
Like he should
no.
be starting wherever he goes.
Yeah,
Where that is, I don't know. I would
yeah.
have loved to have seen him at Roma, but I doubt you guys have the bread for that.
But it's not. It's they even lowered the price. Now they're asking for like 15 mil, which isn't that expensive. And
That's
was
kind of
reading like,
disrespectful, though.
yeah, and I was reading like if Dybala would leave, he would come. So it's like because he would just change into that role. We would shift Pellegrini more central.
If you guys get a Chiesa, like I'm thinking like top 3 or top 4 for you guys
I was already.
this season.
I feel like we could with the players that we signed this season. I can see us finishing top 4.
Yeah.
I don't think Napoli is in yet competitive because Osimhen's leaving. Like it's gonna happen in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, Xerxes coming onto the pitch.
With how much time's left? 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't see Napoli being able to compete this year. They signed Buongiorno, which is a good signing, but everything else, the
Which
midfielders,
is
they're
a
still a
signing we
little.
should have had, but whatever.
I still feel like their midfield's a little weak. I don't think Lukaku's going to be great for them when it happens because I feel like I
But
was reading it
Lukaku
was
does wake up when he plays with Conte, that's for sure.
yeah, absolutely. But it was just like, and there was supposed to be a 2-person. Oh, apparently it might be Kazade going with Lukaku and some money for Osimhen, which I really want to see Kazade start.
Yes, please get him out of Chelsea.
Yeah, so like if he goes to Napoli, I'd really like that for them. Like even though I wouldn't want to see him in a Napoli jersey, but like I want to see him prosper. So like I think it'd be good for them.
He's at a point
We'll
in
see.
his career where he just needs solid minutes week in and week out. Like none of this, Chelsea's not doing anything for him.
Yeah, and like
at
I think
all.
Bologna is gonna finish mid-table. Like I don't think they're gonna do the same thing last year.
Oh God, no. They
Yeah,
just lost too many key pieces.
Yeah, and I don't know if Atalanta is gonna be able to do what they did again last year because not only did they lose a bunch of crucial pieces, but then Scamacca got hurt, and that's really tough.
But
I mean,
they are getting Retegui.
They already did. He played against Madrid.
There you go.
Yeah, so and like
I think that's a good substitute.
Absolutely.
I don't think you're gonna see a precipitous drop off from the striker position at least.
Yeah.
But you did lose Coop Miners, which is unfortunate. He's now with Juventus, and that's a big pickup for Juve. Definitely a big. Where do you think Juve is gonna end up?
Honestly, I can see them winning this. I think they could come back to like
you like the team enough.
I really like their new midfield. So like Thuram has been killing this preseason. I don't know if you saw that goal he scored from outside the box.
Yeah,
he could do what his brother did in his first season in Italy. Like that's like they could that, and then Douglas Luiz, like as a CDM, he contributes goals too. So like they got 3 midfielders who can both play attacking defensively and contribute scoring goals. I mean, Koop Miners are more of the attacking one out of them all.
And you get a coach in Thiago Motta who's like,
exciting, young, exciting. The only problem with them is I think it might take a season for his system to like mesh with all the players.
Fully implement. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can see that. And like I think Yildiz is gonna take a step forward this season for them.
Yes.
And
yes. I believe he just got the number 10 jersey, if I recall correctly.
He signed a new contract and they gave him the number 10 jersey. I think it was yesterday or something like that. So like I do see them having that type. I mean, they finished 3rd last year, right? So it's like I mean, they didn't play any European soccer, so they only have to focus on the league. But their team was very lackluster last season, and like they played a boring style of game. So like for them to finish 3rd, playing how they did last season with a lot of up and down, I feel like it can only go up for them.
And we're getting a new Champions League format this year, which is going to be interesting to see.
But yeah, I think the battle for top 3 is going to be the Milans and Juve. Like I think those are the 3 teams in that caliber, which is the normal history of Italy. But like I'm excited to see what we do this year. I really think we can finish top 4. But it also depends. It also depends on the momentum of De Rossi, and then.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. Yeah, so I think the last signing maybe that I want to get to is first of all, I don't even know how these motherfuckers found the money.
Yeah.
But and and Serie A teams are here struggling to scrape that pennies on the dollar together. But Danny Almo found his way to Barcelona.
Back to where his dad played.
Exactly. I think that's a big signing. I do think that's a big signing for them.
There's too many midfielders now there. I don't like.
Yeah, but like also Gavi and Pedri are always getting injured. But yeah, Danny Almo, I don't know where Barcelona finds this money. This mysterious money that they keep finding, and no one does shit about it. They don't get no breaches. They never get bounced out of Europe ever. It's always Italian teams that get freaking smoked all the time. They have a vendetta against Italian teams because we ran soccer for like 20 years probably. Yeah, I would say from like 1986 to maybe 2007, 2006, we were the best league in soccer. And they probably didn't like that.
But it's just funny, like they talk about it all, we're broke, we can't do this, we can't do that. And then every summer they seem to spend a lot of money on a guy. Last year was crazy. Like Rafinha, they spent like 70 million on Rafinha or whatever. This year was like, it's gonna be Nico Williams, and then Nico Williams didn't show up, so they bought Dani Almo.
I'm happy. I'm happy Nico Williams didn't go. I'm happy.
I feel like he's still going to end up there next season.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like that's just, he kind of wants to play with Yamal again. I feel like they both want it. And they saw the connection work. So it's like, why not redo it?
Yeah.
But like, Barcelona has way too many wingers right now anyways. So it's like, you have Ferran Torres, you got Rafinha, you got all these guys. It's like, do you really need to spend 70 million on another winger?
Well, I would just get Nico because Nico's better than those guys.
Nico's better for them for sure, but like you spent 70 million on Rafinha already, so it's like you got to offload guys. Like you got to offload guys to sign guys, and who's gonna recoup that money on Rafinha right now, anyways? Like he looked good in moments, but like he wasn't really great last season.
He did look good in the Champions League, though. I will say
exactly. He had moments where he looked really good. He scored 2 goals against PSG. Like he had his moments, but it's just like it's also weird. Like I mean, Dani Olmo is very versatile. Like he can play the wing at times. He's like more of a threat as an attacking midfielder. Like, I mean, he's the only guy on Barca I see like that's a pure attacking midfielder. Pedri and Gavi are both central midfielders. De Jong's more of like a box to box CDM type style, and Gundogan is like, that's what he is. He's 36 or whatever. Like, he's gonna be the guy coming off the bench as a leadership role, which is good for him. Like again, still playing top level at his age and on another world class team. I mean, it gives him a lot of rotation, which is good. But it's like, what's going to like when everyone's healthy? What's going to be your ideal midfield? Is it going to be Pedri, Gavi, Dani Olmo to have that Spanish connection that works together? But De Jong still, I mean,
yeah, but you see, De Jong's never really found a home. De Jong has not found a home there. Like if I don't even know why he's so gung ho on staying in Barca. Like he would exceed so much, like to such a different degree if he had gone to any other team that needs a midfielder. Like really and truly, like he's stunting his own growth and his own career by remaining with Barca.
He's older than I really thought he was. He's like 27 already. Yeah, like I thought he signed there like a 21-year-old, but he signed there like 24, 25, and I was like, oh shit, like it's already been 2-3 years, and all he's done is be hurt. Like, I mean, that's entire midfield's all they've done is be hurt. They've never, I don't know the stat, but I doubt they've played more than 10 games together as De Jong, Gavi, and Pedri. I don't think they played more than 10 games together. So it's like maybe the depth is what they need because everyone's always hurt, and it's the style of midfielders they're all really tiny. I mean, they're all like that Spanish build. They're technical. All tiny. They're all technical, and they're all frail. So like they always going to pick up knocking like injuries. So it's like I get it, but I feel like I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they fit in a new system. Like is very different to a Spanish style of play. So like maybe he'll help. Like he's built up when he coached Bayern. They all went from frail, tiny guys to in shape guys that who knows if they took steroids. Look at Goretzka now; he got no hair left on it. So it's like
but do they test for steroids in soccer?
Yeah, they have to. Like I don't think it's as regulated as North American sports, but like they definitely have to like test on that type of stuff. I mean, there was always also that whole gate with Liverpool at some point where like everyone was asthmatic and everyone had asthma pumps. I don't know if you ever saw that story where like it was like they had apparently they had like the highest amount of asthmatic players, where like 70% of them got asthma pumps like diagnosed to them or some shit like this. It was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and everyone was making fun of that, saying, "Oh, trying to scheme the system." So it's like there's always like different types of ways, but like nothing's ever official. I don't think it's as regulated as North America
like
sports.
NFL.
Yeah,
that's true.
NFL, NHL, baseball, and all that type of stuff. So
Well, that is it for this week's episode of Unmatched. That is it for this week's episode of Unmatched. We're gonna be back in our rhythm. I mean,
sports are
NFL
started.
season starting in 3 weeks. Soccer Serie A has starting this weekend. The Premier League is on right now. Manchester United and Fulham still 0-0. Matthias de Ligt just got subbed on. So we're gonna be back here on a regular basis. We're back. We're back. We're locked in. We're ready to go. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think, how you feel, if you agree, disagree, hate. If you want to hate, join us because we all here because we love sports. We will see you next week. Later.
Absolutely. Peace.